So without further ado, please welcome the director of Policeman, Nadav Lapid.
Hi. Hi, good evening, and thanks for your patience. Should I say something?
If you want, or we can come back after, and we'll be back for a Q&A.
So actually we're gonna watch two films. The first one is a short one, and the title is Ammunition Hill. I think it's maybe the only documentary I've made in my life. It was a part of a collective project about Jerusalem, short films about Jerusalem. And as I told Brad before, after the screening, after the film was, this short film was released, I got many emails from people who were fascinated by the level of the acting, because they were convinced it's a fiction one. So you're gonna see it. And the second one is Policeman. It was my first feature film. It was released in Israel in 2012, I think, and the release was complicated. The film was censored, and then there was a kind of huge scandal in the press. So they changed a little bit their decision. I think they limited it to above 16 years old. Well, we were talking about it before. I think, looking backward, it was the kind of first sign to restrictions about Israeli cinema that become now more and more vast and dominant in Israel, but this was years before. So I guess I can only wish that you'll have an interesting screening, and we'll be here afterwards, to discuss the movies. So thanks a lot. Ciao.
So I'm going to start by asking a few questions, and then we'll open up to the audience for a Q&A after. We were actually just talking about Fassbender a couple of minutes ago over here, and I was just wondering, I couldn't help but thinking of the Baader-Meinhof group with this young group of kind of very good-looking leftist radicals. I was wondering if that was any sort of inspiration or any kind of reference to the film.
Hi, good evening. So it's strange and not strange that you are raising this question. Actually, I think that in a way the genesis, or one source of genesis to this film, was when I was in Berlin Film Festival in 2005, I think, with a short movie named Road, and there was an exhibition about political terror or stuff in a gallery, and I went to see it. And it was an exhibition about Baader-Meinhof, and first of all, I was fascinated by this idea of manifests, and then there were some video, not videos, but some shooting of the period, and there was something in the relation between the manifests and the faces which was totally seduced me, but also, politically wise, I told myself that all these manifests could have been easily written about, for instance, about Israel and this period gap between rich and poor, etc., etc., etc. And nevertheless, you couldn't have imagined such a thing in Israel because of all sorts, but mainly I think because of kind of basic cohesion that exists in this society. And then I told myself, okay, let's do a kind of hypothetical move. Let's create such a imaginary Baader-Meinhof in the heart of this country. So from this point of view, you're right. Afterwards, I think that I'm preoccupied by the question between, well, beauty and words, in a way. I think maybe in all my movies there's something, the connection between certain texts and beauty. What happens when a certain type of face or mouth or lips reads certain words? Do these words change? Of course they do, but yeah. So you can feel it. About Fassbinder, yes. When I didn't watch these movies for several years, so now I wanted to refresh my memory. I guess you can see something. Yeah, I think something in the connection maybe between kind of drama or melodrama and a very dry political tone. Something analytic and emotional or sentimental.
And I mean, and there's something like class struggle, which is all over the film in many different ways. We have these kind of bourgeois leftists fighting for class, and then we have, even the policemen, right? They're very aware of the class and the materiality of their lives, right? They're looking at, their different types of homes and everything. I was wondering if you could talk more about that.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of tragedy, social Greek tragedy in a way. I think it's a kind of tentative to make a kind of radiography of society, to understand in a way. Because you see here all the, without in a way maybe being judgmental, but you see here all the ingredients and why these ingredients turn again and again with the kind of non-mobility, with non-revolution, with why nothing changes in a way. You see those who were supposed to be in a way the natural clients of a revolution or of a change, like these policemen, and their alienation towards this group of bourgeois who sits in a very fancy salon and dream or compose manifests about the oppressed ones, while the oppressed one, first of all, they don't see themselves as the oppressed one, and second of all, they don't want to be saved by this person. And to which extent, although these groups could have been complementary, there's a huge abyss, huge gap which separate them. And even when they are close and they can hear one the other, or even when these policemen can hear the screams or the shouts of this girl, they have no dialogue. In a way, they're totally incapable to get out of their. That's why I'm saying that it's like a little bit this Greek tragedy, because each one of them is carrying till the end its own cross. Each one of them is playing till the end its own role. And in a way, there's a kind of a deterministic thing about it, because they were born to collapse one with the other, and the results of this frontal shock are in a way well known from the beginning, and there's no surprises. At a certain moment, the elephant will smash the ant.
And then a couple of the images that I find really striking in it. There's the one in the opening where the men are standing up looking over the landscape, and the mic, says, "This is the most beautiful country in the world." And then again later on in the film, we have the younger leftists who are basically shooting at this beautiful tree.
Yeah, I think it's about love and hate of the country in a way. There's something. I think maybe each country, but in a place like Israel, you feel it very well. It puts you in front of a kind of impossible dichotomy. Either you have a kind of blind fidelity to the country, and then you love it desperately. You love it with all your heart. You love it, and for you, it's the best country in the world. This is the only the only possible, in a way, declaration, or you're totally alienated to it. You hate it. And I think shooting on a beautiful tree is a kind of expression of fury, of rage, of hate, of alienation to the country. So yeah, I mean, it's, as you say, it's kind of two opposed moments.
Okay, so maybe we can open up to the audience now. If you just raise your hand, and we're going to pass a microphone to you to make sure everyone can hear the question, and everyone coming this way.
Yeah, very good movie. Thank you very much. I'd like to know if I understand well the message that this movie wants to present. And I would like to know if this is a description or the seriousness of the polarizations that exist in Israeli society now, with extremes, very rich and very poor, and the young generation who doesn't have access to high housing costs and things like this. So it's kind of a description of what's happening in Israeli society these days.
You know, when I wrote these scripts and when I start when the producer started to look for money and to send it to all sorts of film funds in Israel, etc. So there was more or less always the same reaction, like they were saying some loved the script, others hated it, but all of them said in a way, this situation it's a kind of science fiction because no chance, no possibility, we couldn't imagine an internal clash inside of Israeli society. And then the film was shot and edited and shown in Jerusalem Film Festival. It was July 2011. And 5 days later began like the biggest social upheaval in Israel. We called it the social revolution. In the huge demonstrations, 100,000 of young people in the streets, etc., etc., etc. And then they were talking about the film as a prophetic film. I mean, people were saying that the film was prophetic, and there were all sorts of articles about it. There were even demonstrations where people were shouting slogans from the film, etc. And then I remembered, like it was maybe 1 month before the film was supposed to be released, and then some key figures from this social upheaval, they contacted me and they told me, let's do a premiere on a roof in Tel Aviv. I mean, for them, they didn't know anything about the movie. They only read about it in newspapers. So they imagined the film as a kind of revolutionary manifest that will send people to the barricades, etc. And I hesitated a little bit, but then I said, okay, why not? So they organized like a big screening. It was a fascinating event, I think, from the sociological point of view. They organized, I felt like, someone who was presenting, Eisenstein was presenting a movie to the leaders of the Communist Party or something like this. I mean, they were organizing this screening, and all the leaders of this struggle, which were young, nice people, by the way, they were sitting like in the first row, waiting for a kind of the international kind of, and at the end of the movie they were furious. They were super furious. Like they said, what is it? I mean, it's first of all, we are shown here as a bunch of bourgeois, and second of all, this film talks about the failure. Well, I can say that few months later or a few weeks later, all this social struggle unfortunately collapsed. But I can say that I think if I look a little bit with the perspective of years, I think that there's something, I don't know if prophetic, but let's say that Israel is a very dichotomic place today, but there is an enormous, huge, and important majority which has a kind of, I think, blind fidelity, loyalty to to the state whatsoever, a state which becomes darker and darker. And there's a very, very small minority, totally alienated and with no real weight in the Israeli reality, which, I don't know, shoots on trees, but which doesn't have real influence. And I think that this unbalanced situation, in a way, is well, you might say that it's exposed or shown in the movie.
Okay, just right.
First of all, congratulations. Second of all, I want to ask you, which school did you go to?
Which school did I go to?
Yeah, in Israel, like which film school?
Film school, to Jerusalem Film School.
Not Sam Spiegel?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm absolutely positive you've been through some screenings in Israel, outside Israel, and I'm certain that you also understand that it's a very different reading of the film inside and outside Israel. For somebody who doesn't live in that society, for somebody who's not caught in the web of the social, economical, political everydayness of Israel, so there is a certain distance from the everydayness of Israel. I kind of have a very different reading, and my question to you is, how wrong is this reading from what you intended to do, which is linked more to the short documentary? Because what we see on the screen, I didn't see any of these social differences, of the social inequalities, of this. I didn't feel any motivation for this group. Looks a little bit ridiculous to, like without really a meaning, without really a cause, rebel without cause, in search for a cause. So my reading was that in fact they are victims of a society that breeds violence because they have to grow up violent, and they learn violence like your kids in the doc. They learn violence and they follow the violent path because this is the situation and this is what's happening when you grow up in a violent society. You resort to the violence. So that was my understanding of your film. I don't know how wrong I am.
Oh, yeah, I think you're not wrong at all. I mean, first of all, I would say that after a long research about radical groups, I think that in revolutionary groups, I think that all the revolutionary groups are also a bit ridiculous till the moment that someone is shooting at someone, and then it stops being ridiculous. But they have this ridiculous, funny, strange ingredient. But afterwards, I totally agree. I mean, I think that if there's one thing that these both forces, policemen and radicals here share, is a fascination for violence and fascination for guns and fascination for and I think this is. I mean, I think we were just talking about I told Brad that I found that this decision to screen both films together kind of interesting, because I told him exactly more or less what you said. It's evident that these kids, in a way, it's evident how they can become policemen, but they can also become these radicals. I mean, they looked a little bit physically. They looked a little bit like as if in 5-6 years they'll keep on playing with their guns, but on a different situation.
Okay, I think we're out of time. Can we just do one more quick question here? Sorry, we're running behind, but if we can fit in one more.
Very much enjoyed the film. I had seen it before. I was just wondering, I noticed a couple of the actors were familiar. Well, several were familiar, but two, especially Leo Raz as the head of the special policeman, and another actress there. And I'm just wondering, was this the beginning of the seeds of Fauda?
You know what Fauda is?
Of course. Have you seen? Everyone knows Fauda.
Okay. First of all, I must admit that don't tell Leo Raz, but I don't think that I have seen an episode of Fauda. But it's a series about TV series that was initiated by the actor who plays the leader of the police unit, the bald guy, and became a big success, at least in Israel. I don't know if it was the genesis of Fauda. You should ask him. But what I can tell you is that if you'll come tomorrow, you'll see him again as the husband of the kindergarten teacher. So,
Okay. Thank you.
And on that note, unfortunately, we're out of time, but I hope you'll join us later tonight. We're going to come back and Nadav's going to introduce Chantal Ackerman's Je tu il elle, which I think is an absolute masterpiece, so please don't miss it. And then tomorrow we'll be back for the kindergarten teacher, and then again on Saturday we'll be back to present Nadav's short. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you,
Thanks.
Nadav.